A very good morning to all my dear students of class 10th. I welcome you all again after the summer break as I am meeting with you all, which is chapter 2 in economics, sectors of Indian economy. Children, in this chapter, ma'am must have told you what are the points which we need to cover. Number 1, we will be seeing the three sectors of our economy, the three divisions of the economy. Number 2, comparison of the three sectors of the economy. Number 3, differences between organized and unorganized sector. And number 4, which is classification of economic activities. So in this chapter majorly we have division of the sectors of our economy. Firstly, on the basis of the nature of the work, which is primary, secondary and tertiary. Second was on the basis of condition of the work, on the basis of your working condition, be it you are in a job, be it you are a farmer, what conditions into which we are working. On these parameters, children, the second heading will be classification on the basis of conditions, which will be organized sector and unorganized sector. The third is classification of economic activities. Now, what are economic activities, children? Anything, any activity which is fetching you money, in simple terms, is known as economic activity. Where the word economic comes, you need to know this talks about money. Now, important points you need to know about economic activities is number 1, these activities which generate some income are known as economic activities. So children, I have always focused on one thing. Terms of social science in itself are giving you hints about their meaning. So economic activities which are fetching you some money, some income, are known as economic activities. Number 2, for example, a computer engineer creating software for profit is making money from his work. Number 3, under this heading, division of economic activities. These 2 points were general introduction to economic activities. Now, division of economic activities. Number 1, primary sector, which is related directly to farming activities or forestry or fishing, where man has a direct contact with the natural resources. Children, ma'am must have explained all these 3 activities, but yes, since we are brushing up the chapter, let us quickly recap the points and then we will move further. Because if I will directly jump into the topic, it is it will be like that after a 1 week's gap, many of you must be realizing kya tha pehle, what was the topic further. So let us have that strong connectivity with the content. Now, number 1, primary, where there is a direct contact of man with the nature or natural resources. Major activities in primary sector are farming activities or agriculture. Apart from agriculture, children, we have forestry, then we have fishing, and then number 2, secondary sector. Secondary sector is related to manufacturing. Alright, suppose I am wearing this cotton shirt, you people wear cotton clothes. Are they coming directly from the agricultural land? Are they falling on your laps directly from the agricultural field? No. Then it involves certain steps from the plucking of cotton balls from the cotton field, children. It has a long way of process, after which we are getting these fabrics, cotton fabrics. So this entire process of turning a natural resource into a finished good, is known as secondary sector, which involves what? Manufacturing. Of course, all the industrial sector falls under which type of activity? Secondary sector. Third is tertiary sector, which gives a strong platform, a strong base to combine primary and secondary. Okay, for example, cotton balls have been plugged. The cotton balls are of very fine quality. The farmer has plugged them. The farmer has to send, and the industries are ready to work with the cotton balls. But If there is no connectivity, if there is no mode of transportation for the transportation of the raw material, which is the cotton fiber, to the industries, children, are we going to get that finished good? No. Here comes the importance of tertiary sector. So tertiary sector, no matter holds the third place in the rank, it holds majority of importance, combining primary, secondary, and giving a strong base, a strong platform for the primary and secondary sector. Example, transportation, banking. Without banks, are the farmers going to get loans? Will the farmers be able to spend on good quality of seeds? Will the farmer be able to purchase good quality of manure, fertilizers, pesticides? No, children. If they are not going to get loans from banks, how are they going to do their farming activities? Thus, tertiary sector is the key essence of these two economic activities. I hope this much is clear, since you people know this very well. Ma'am has taught you very well. But for instance, we need to have that catch up with the previous content, and then we will move to the next content which we are going to start. After that, children, economic activities, let us see the comparison of these three sectors. Ma'am must have told you, I am giving you the highlights. So, as thousands of economic activities going around, children, in the three sectors, it makes almost impossible to take an account of every such activity. There are n number of jobs, there are n number of activities which are going around our life, but it is impossible to take an account of each and every work profile. Now, we check only final goods and services. For example, a farmer, listen to this example which is going to explain the comparison. For example, a farmer who sells wheat to the flour mill at rupees 8 per kg, the mill grinds the wheat and sells the flour to the biscuit company for rupees 10 per kg. Now, can you see the hike of 2 rupees? Farmer sold at 8 rupees for the flour to the person concerned, and then the flour mills are selling it to the biscuit company at rupees 10. The biscuit company uses the flour and things such as sugar, oil and other baking products. It sells biscuits in the market to the consumers, which is us, the customers, at rupees 60, rupees 15 per packet. So, rupees 15 per packet. If you talk about one packet, 15. So, from 8 rupees to hike of 15 rupees. Can you see the hike of 7 rupees? So, this involves the division of money in between the channels. It sells biscuits in the market to the consumers at rupees 15 per packet. Biscuits are the final goods, that is the goods which reaches directly to consumers. So these are the final goods or the finished products, children. Alright, now after this, after knowing these economic activities, things are coming to us from different channels. Are these channels, are these modes of work in different sectors doing something to our country? Yes, they add to our country's GDP. What is that? It is gross domestic product. Children, since I am teaching class 10th in last year, students copies, I saw 50% of the students made so many mistakes about the full form of GDP. Whenever GDP comes to your mind, you have to be spontaneous and accurate. It is gross domestic product. People write gross domestic something, gross with final. They don't know the full form. If they know the full form, they don't know the explanation for just 1 mark. Therefore, children, you need to mug it up and learn it by heart. It should be feeded air in your brains. As and on you grow up in your life, wherever you go, if anybody talks about GDP, you should be very clear in your mind, and it should be a spontaneous reward. GDP of the country, gross domestic product. Come on, you should know this much. And then you should know the correct explanation for at least 1 mark, children. What is that? Gross domestic product. The value of final goods and services. Children wrote the value of final goods. The child missed services. Do you think the child needs to get full mark? No. So you need to be accurate while writing these answers. So the value of the final goods and services produced in all the 3 sectors during a particular year provides the total production of the sector for that year is called gross domestic product. If I explain it in a layman's language, the total input by different departments of a country and what is the total output after all the combined efforts of the work, that is GDP. So the final goods and services from all the 3 sectors are giving us what in that 1 year is telling you GDP, which is gross domestic product. Now, more the GDP, more bigger the economy of the countries is. We always classify, children, the countries on terms of economic development. The first criteria for classification will be GDP. If a country is having high GDP, will you consider that country to a growing country, developing country, or an undeveloping country? Yes, more the GDP, higher the developed country. I hope this much is clear, children. This was just a brief inclusion of the points which are covered in the chapter. Now, children, we'll see what are the changes actually, historical changes in the chapter. At initial stages of development, primary sector was the most important sector of economic activity. Children, when science, education did not prosper so much, say for example 100 and 200 years ago, what was the time the people could do their livelihood? How could the people live their livelihood? There comes the role of barter system. I hope ma'am has explained to you where give and take of commodities take place, where there is no involvement of money. I'll quickly give you 3-4 points of historical changes in these 3 sectors. Means we are tracing the changes in these 3 sectors. Number 1, at initial stages, means in the beginning of the country's development, primary sector was the most important sector of economic activity in a country. Primary sector involves direct involvement of man with natural resources, children. Okay. Now, second, with the innovation in farming methods, agricultural sector began to produce much more food than before. Children, whenever a person starts a new venture, when a person starts a new business, the person starts it on an initial level, a small level. When he gets success, when he gets lot of profit in that, he starts expanding his whole business. Therefore, same is the case with our country's economy. This is the case, this is the trace actually of our 3 sectors. Initially, primary was holding lot of importance, and then when there was growth, when there was advancement in the agricultural sector, it started giving little scope to further activities. Point number 3, children. People started working in industries, and then some people used to get involved in transportation. See, if I am working in industry, I need to have that surrounding connected with the market area of that industry. We all have studied in class 8th and 9th the importance of setup of industry. We need to have good connectivity of roads, connectivity with the market, labor, cheap supply of electricity. All these points hold a very important place. So, when people started producing more agricultural products, the surplus product went to industries. Then people started working in industries also. Until and unless there is no scope, until and unless there is no open job provision, people won't work. When industries will set up, people will come to work. It will give more rise in the employment sector. It is as simple. Children, the concept, the chapter, the subject is nothing to, have that pressure on your brain. It is simply relevance. It is simple relevance with your daily life. You can easily think and you can get to know what the chapter is trying to say. And then, of course, we teachers are there to help you out. Now, after that, the next point, when people started working in industries, also apart from children producing more agricultural product, children, next is different industries related for food processing, equipments marketing, and then textiles coming in large numbers. Now, not just food material based industries came up. Apart from food, fabrics, different textiles industries started emerging. Now, it is very obvious time changes, innovation, development, invites, it gives scope to a lot of work opportunities. So this was happening. If we are supposed to trace, the question is asked about the historical changes in the sector. Even if you have not read this point, children, I am sure I can bet on this. If genuinely and with your calm mind you are going to think what happened in the earlier times, this in earlier times there were no industries, no advancements. You will trace the points gradually, and there you go, you have the answer ready with you. Alright, so nothing to worry, but just read and listen to the teachers, and here the chapter is well comprehended by you children. So it has nothing to memorize, learning. It has more of understanding, right? And more of relatable skills, how you relate it with your daily life, how you take it from the teacher, how the teacher is explaining, and then how you are taking it. So you need to be cautious, you need to be attentive, children. Now, the last point, since more sectors of industry started emerging, this lead to start of services such as banking, health and sanitation, etc. Obviously, children, when agriculture is going to increase, industries are going to emerge. Industries are going to emerge then and there. It is giving scope for other different scope of work like banking, health, sanitization, etc. Transportation. I hope this much is clear, children. Now, what are these factors doing to GDP? GDP, I have explained what is GDP. Now, what are they contributing in GDP? So, let us look further, children. In the period of 1973 to 74, primary sector has contributed maximum to GDP. Now, children, when I am speaking these 2-3 highlighted points, since you people have been taught by ma'am in the last week's class, week before last week class. So when I am giving these highlights, you should be writing it down, the important points. Now I believe focusing on important things, even if it comes, write a short note on contribution to GDP. Acha, contribution to GDP. Ma'am has explained these 2-3 points. Number 1 was contribution of primary sector. So while I am explaining, you can at least write the gist of the explanation, since you people have understood this topic in the previous class. I am not reading from the book also. I am just explaining these points, and that too very slowly. So children, it is my request for you all to please just write the points. Alright. Now, in 1973-74, maximum contribution was from primary sector. Number 2, but in 2013 and 14, the tertiary sector has contributed maximum in GDP. Did you see that drastic change, the quick jump, the direct jump from primary to tertiary? Why this happened? Why there is a big jump from contribution, maximum contribution from primary to tertiary? There are various factors behind this. What are they? Let us study further. Factors behind the contribution. Number 1, the development of agriculture and industry. We discussed this earlier also. We were tracing the history of the changes. Children, if you understand the topics, the subheadings, you can easily relate it. Okay, tracing the history, वही तो बात पूछी जा रही है. But yes, there is a twist in the question. The question has been framed in a different way. So we saw there that there was enhancement in agricultural sector, there was enhancement in the industrial sector. Thus, it created more opportunities of work. And that is the answer here also. What are the factors behind the contribution shift? See, the development of agriculture and industry leads to the development of services such as transport, trade, banking, etc. Same thing, na? Same thing was explained there, same thing is being told here. So you just need to be attentive and use your brains. Point number 2, the greater the development of primary and secondary, the more would be the demand for such services. If we are having growth in primary and secondary sector, there has to be a huge shift in the tertiary sector. Right, children? So after this, children, where are most of the people employed? We discussed the historical changes. We discussed the shift of contribution of GDP from different sectors. Now we need to know who are actually working where. Yes or no? If we are studying something, we always divide that topic into separate heading. What are we searching for? So we search for what are the meaning of these sectors, what do they do, what is their importance, what have they done in countries' GDP, what are the factors which led to the change in these sectors. And here comes the next question in our mind, basically who is working where. Children, in the period during 1973-74, when primary sector contributed most, secondary sector contributed only 12% and 48% is contributed by the tertiary sector. So employment percentage actually of this period 72 to 73 was 74% of the people were engaged in primary sector. So 74% were engaged in primary, whereas 15 were involved in tertiary. Right? So in 2000, now we will discuss the second factor. In 2013 to 14, the percentage of the people involved or the percentage of the sectors, primary sector contributed 12%, whereas the tertiary sector reached to 67%. So did you see the complete reversible percentage? Right? So after this, children, what happens actually? When people are working in primary sector, people are not going out. Still India's majority of the population is engaged in agriculture. Then what is the reason behind? Now go back to class 9's content of economics, where we discuss the strategies of work, types of employment. Then if you remember, disguised, seasonal. So these are the factors, children, which are leading to this shift of percentage. Now disguised, when people are not needed, isn't it? More people are engaged in agricultural activity where they are not needed also. This kind of employment talks about disguised employment. Seasonal, when there is work, people will work. When there is no work on the field, people are just sitting without work. So this is seasonal unemployment. So disguised is that actually you are showing that you are working, you are disguising, you are bluffing, you are fooling, in simple words. So disguised, again the name is giving you the meaning. Right, children? So all this was explained by ma'am. Now we will come to our point, how to create employment. We saw that people are just trying to involve themselves into different kinds of work where they are not needed. Now in this case, children, what should we do? What should a government do to create employment opportunities? I know many of you are having so many of ideas now. Let us see them one by one. Number 1, granting loans at lower interest rate. If I tell you, class 10, granting loans at lower interest rate. You will say, what will that do? What will that do? It will help those poor farmers who were not able to purchase all the agricultural material from sowing the seeds, children. Now with this very less rate of interest, they will be able to purchase their agricultural products, and then they will be farming, and then they will be producing. Right? It is very simple. Everybody will be able to have that work on their lands, so that not only rich farmers but the poor farmers also will be getting loans on a very small rate of interest, children. Point number 2. Children, this question comes even for 5 marks, even for 3 marks. If it comes for 3 marks, at least you need to write 5 points. And if it comes for 5 points, you have no choice to write all the points. Right? Then your explanation techniques, your style of presentation fetches you full marks. If you are just writing the points in nutshell, you will get say 1 mark less out of 5, 4. Even if you have mentioned everything, but you have not presented it well, you have not explained it well, you will get 4. So it is my advice to go through the sample sheets of the toppers. You will see how well the answers are presented. So point number 2, how to create more employment, is investing in infrastructure, such as building a dam at suitable place. If we ask our government to build the dam somewhere in Gomti Nagar, for example, if Indira Dam was not built and it was asked for to build, what was the purpose and how it is going to create employment? Now see, if an order is being passed for construction of dam, it is going to give work to so many laborers of that area. The government will be cutting the cost in calling laborers from far places. The nearby poor people are going to come and work. Plus, they will not be sitting idle. They will not be unemployed. In this case, they will be getting work and they will be getting payment. Right? So, third point, increasing efficiency of transportation and storage. Now, if the transportation is more efficient, people are going to reach for it more. For example, if our e-rickshaw network in Lucknow, people who don't know how to drive, people who don't have a vehicle, they use public transport. If we have just limited number of e-rickshaw, people are just waiting for hours for going their work, they are walking, they are doing that manual rickshaw. What is the point of then having these rickshaws if they are not much in number? So efficient. It should be efficient and productive. It shouldn't be a burden. It shouldn't be a liability. So efficient transportation is helping people to reach out for work. Next, children, promoting small scale industries such as mills, honey collection centers, jute basket making, pottery making, all these handicrafts, all these are going to give work. For example, a village household, women are very good at making baskets of jute, but nobody is giving them work to earn money. They were making it for their own. If a person invests on a small scale industry, or even if a joint company invest in a small scale industry, or it has been set up in a village, don't you think all the women of that village are going to get extra work, extra payment? So this is the way we can create job in the rural areas, children. Right? Next is emphasis on education and training centers. Education, we all know, holds lot of importance. Without education, are you going to get good professional jobs? No. Then training centers, trainings of vocational field, vocational training. For example, nowadays institutions are having the courses which have vocational aspect, means where a student is all ready to earn his bread and butter. So training centers where we will train the students to help them in earning their bread and butter or earning their livelihood. Next point, identifying children, identifying the potential of an area. Now, if an area near our Lucknow is very, very good in farming activities, but due to some dispute, the land has been left barren. No agricultural work is being done. Can you realize how much importance that barren land holds? We are going to create lot of employment through giving work to the farmers. Then when farmers will get work, they will work on that piece of land. When they will work on that piece of land, lot of production is going to be done. That production is going to fetch income. So, identifying the potential, what potential this area is having, potential of area in minerals, quarrying, mining, potential of area in having commercial setup. That area has strong connectivity with the residential colony, where that commercial setup can have that big support to the areas, to the people of that areas for their daily articles. So, we should identify the potential of a particular area, children. Then, government welfare schemes like making well pumps, then generating dams, then providing electricity, building hospitals. Everything which has a startup needs to have people to work for. So, if the government is going to generate and establish or set up these organizations and institutions, children, people are going to get work, right, children? Now, in the mindset of this children, in this streamline, what has the government done? MGNREGA, which is Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act 2005. This act holds importance because the central government in India made a law implementing the right to work in 625 districts. All right, what this law actually holds about, children? It is under this, in rural areas, all those who are able to and are in a need of work are guaranteed 100 days of employment in the year by the government. If a person A is ready to work and a person A has that skill, it is not applicable to those old, weak, malnutrition people who cannot work, though they are willing to work to earn something. But yes, if they are not fit in that category, children, they are not being entitled for this law. So, ready to work and are not working, and then who are having that ability to work, ability and ready to work, will be given 100 days work guarantee by the government. If the government fails to give work, the government is going to pay the allowances to that person. So, in this way, the different strategies are coming out by the government so that people of a country should get more and more job. Now, children, it is my humble request to you all to please go through the chapter and read this much, so that in the next class, when we will meet again, I will start with the classification of the economy in different sectors now, as per on the basis of conditions of work. Remember, and then we will discuss those aspects. So that's all for today, children. Thank you so much for listening to me patiently. I am very much sure of that you people are going to read the chapter and come back in the next class well attentive and well versed with the chapters, so that my contribution reaches out in 100% to you all. But for that, you need to read the chapter, and then you need to do the work which I'm going to attach with this video. Since ma'am must have given you notes or questions and answers, I will give you not very lengthy part, I'll give you some part to write it as per the topic which is being discussed, right? So children, please do that work in your fair copy under the same heading. The thing is, you need to write down the new date when you start the new work. So that's all for today's class, children. Thank you so much. I pray for everybody's well-being. Stay safe, stay healthy, and see you all in the next class. Bye-bye.